The East African community is celebrating its 20th anniversary since its commissioning, and among the key issues that they're looking into during this celebration is re-evaluating of its priorities. What are some of the priorities of the East African community? What are some of the needs of countries in the East African community, and how do we address and reevaluate our needs moving forward so that we can have the East African community that we want come the year 2050? I am now joined by Ambassador Liberat to just shed some light on some of these issues and help us understand what are some of the reevaluation that the East African community will be doing. Thank you very much, Ambassador, for making time.
Thank you very much.
So let's just start with our introduction on the reevaluation point. 20 years in, a lot of lessons learned, a lot of mistakes as we move towards Africa 20, or rather East Africa 2050. What are some of the areas that we're looking to reevaluate?
As we celebrate the 20th anniversary, we are aware that so many things have not been done yet. When we compare our community, our countries, to other countries, to other continents, we know that we are still struggling with basic needs. Our people are still struggling with food security. We know that our industries are not creating enough employment. We know that our health systems are yet to be improved. So we realize that regardless all these good accomplishments, we need to go, we need to do more. Mm-hmm. And we know we need to go to to do things at a faster pace.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of doing more, we have been trying and we have been pushing as a community, as a region, to try and break those barriers. However, if we talk about tariff, for example, trade, we are seeing a little bit of a tussle, brotherly fight here and there between Kenya and Uganda, Tanzania and Kenya. And this is very important because you said during your speech that it is the private sector that employs people. But if we cannot find a synergized way of private sectors doing trade within the region, then we cannot grow the region. How do we get past this barrier?
This issue of rules of origin, that one has been not only in the community, in all countries. In every country, you always have these issues, knowing what is to be called like made in that country, mm-hmm. Or partly made in that country. So that's why actually as EAC dealt with that issue, tax-wise, what we call we have a taxation, mm-hmm. whereby we have a structure with three taxes, 0%, 10%, 25%. And with that structure, we meant that goods which originate from the community are taxed 0%. And the goods which are semi-finished are taxed 10%, and the ones which are finished, 25%. But goods coming from other countries are always taxed. Mm-hmm. So now the issue becomes what is really made in EAC, which would benefit from that 0% taxation. And we have been working on that for a long time. Working on standards is a day-to-day activity in the community. We have actually a dedicated Directorate of Trade with a dedicated department to actually try to harmonize standards in East Africa, because it's about standards. Mm-hmm. Goods which may come from Uganda and go to Rwanda, may have, as an origin, you have like the sticker saying it's made in Uganda, and in another country they may consider that they are not fully made in Uganda. So this is an issue we are fully aware of, that we are trying to resolve, like really coming to a common understanding as countries in the same family, as to what would be the local content, mm-hmm. For us to accept that that product is made in East Africa. Okay. So it is a process, mm-hmm. And we are very confident that we'll be able to resolve that.
Let's stay with the markets just for a minute, and we are working towards consolidating the market. There are also talks about a regional currency that can be used across the borders. And previously during the presentation, it was said that particularly digital money transaction has been made easier. So just take us through some of the other steps that the EAC is taking to ensure that EAC becomes a common market that can thrive and it breaks down all the barriers.
Well, common market as described in the Common Market Protocol, which has been signed by all our countries, really means free movement of people, free movement of goods, free movement of capital, and a right of settlement. That means that you can move your goods from one country to another without any problem. People can move as they wish. People can settle as they wish. You can move capital, money, as if you were in one country. And 5 years ago, it was, most of us were very, very skeptical. To know that Kenya will actually abandon their old passport and go with a new passport on which is written East African Community. And now all the EAC countries, with the exception of South Sudan, as I said, that's a new member, all the countries now are issuing EAC passports. For the right of settlement, there are still some issues. We know that it is easier to settle in some countries than others because these residence permits are easier to obtain in some countries than others. But these are actually the issues we discuss. All our immigration officers, ministries of public security, they have their platforms at the EAC level. They meet on a regular basis. And these are the kind of issues we talk about. Why don't you remove all these, all these impediments, which actually do not make it possible to fully benefit from the common market.
Now, I want to bring broader regions into context, and Africa is working towards the Africa Continental Free Trade Area Agreement. There's also the single transport airline market. Is the EAC well-placed or competitive enough to be able to take advantage of these opportunities that the continent is presenting?
Well, before even talking about competitiveness, let's talk about the possibility for our goods to enter other markets. The way things are today, if you move your goods from Kenya to Zambia, you will pay taxes the same way as someone who would get goods from, maybe another continent. And that is the problem. In the first place, you have to enable Africans to trade with each other. So whether they are competitive or not, people who do business find out very quickly if they can sell on a market or not. But you have, in the first place, to open the doors for them. And the African Free Trade Area is about that. First place, allow Africans to be able to trade with each other. Now, the issue of competitiveness really pertains to the capability, in each country for their private sector to be innovative, to be also cost competitive. So that is really another, I think, we cannot talk in Africa about one region being more competitive than other. We can talk about countries. We know that in West Africa, some countries are more competitive than others. Yes. Actually, in East Africa, we know that the industry in Kenya, of course, it's it is probably the best in our region, and actually that's why most of East Africans buy so many things from Kenya. You are competitive in this region. And our hope is that Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi, South Sudan will be able to follow that example. When we are together as a region, of course, we inspire each other, we train each other, we pull each other, and we hope that with the opening of these markets in other regions of Africa, as East Africa, we'll be able to have a competitive edge.
Great. As we almost come to a close, I want us to talk about the EAC Heads of State Summit. It has been postponed, and word has it that it might be held in February. So should we be looking forward to that sitting in February, and what are some of the key issues that will take precedence during that sitting?
Well, I thank you for asking this question because, people somehow develop a lot of anxiety around the Summit of Heads of State. What you have to understand is that the EAC is not like the other communities. We are one of the very few communities in the world which require all the countries to be present in any community meeting. So as a community, we have favored presence of all, involvement of all, decision-making by all. But if one country is not available because they have a national holiday or because they have something, we don't hold the summit, we postpone it.
So are we likely to see it in February?
Well, for the time being, we have already written to the chair of the summit, trying to convene a summit at the end of February. So now we are waiting for the chair of the summit to tell us that he has spoken with all the other presidents and they are ready to hold the summit. That's how it is. So a few days from now, we are going to know if the summit will be held at the end of February. But again, it's really a matter of all the countries being present.
Any issues that might take precedence during that sitting?
Well, actually, we always, that is a very special moment where we can have decisions made on some of these sticky issues, such as NTBs, to have a directive from the summit, meaning presidents telling all the administration that you have to do this. So we deal with all important issues in customs union, in common market, in political federation, in monetary union. So we always have actually a full report by the Council of Ministers with so many issues to be discussed. So I cannot really pick just one issue and say this is what we're going to discuss.
Fair enough. Finally, as we come to a close, today we're here at the Daystar University in the presence of phenomenal young Kenyans, and we are launching a film competition. And the hashtag that they have been using is the East Africa that I deserve. Why are we pushing for inclusivity, and what do we intend to achieve from the East Africa that I deserve campaign?
Well, I mean, this campaign is really meant for the community to dialogue with the youth, because we know that the youth is the majority of our population. It is meant to actually attempt to tell them what we do, for them to know what the community is about, what projects we have for them, and how it can help their future. But at the same time, it is a time for us, this 20th anniversary is really a time for self-examination. We know that even the youth who know about the community, actually have some frustrations. There are some things for sure they would like to see or they would like to get from their countries, from the community. Employment, for example, Employment, we know that most of our young people would like to see a community which is more dynamic, which creates more opportunities for employment. And for sure, they have some other things. They may be thinking about governance. So we want to hear from them. And that's why we are giving them now the opportunity through this campaign to actually send their ideas, send us films, send us, really, and in the most honest way, send us their advice. From there, we pick the best films and we are going to reward them. Because we think that good ideas, good insights in what the youth thinks deserve to be rewarded.
Ambassador Liberat, thank you for making time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.